There are very few things you can count on in this world. One of them's death, the other one's taxes, and the last one is the Reds getting shut out after a blowout win.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. My name is Jeff Carr. His name is Steve Offenbaker, and we are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans. Thank you so much for joining us on this Locked On Reds podcast. We are brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your Cincinnati Reds every single day. And on today's show, we are live. Thank you for joining us live. Make sure you jump down into that comment section and leave us your thoughts, leave us your questions. We will get to those a little bit later on in today's show as we talk about the strategy, the hitting strategy that, quite frankly, I think is killing this Reds run production. Also, I want to talk about a Terry Francona apology to the team and why he missed one guy. We'll talk about that later on, just in a few minutes here on this edition of the Locked On Reds podcast that is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. All right, Steve, let's start with this because the Cincinnati Reds lost yet another rubber match. They really don't like rubber matches. They really don't like Sunday games. They really, really hate Sunday rubber matches, but they got shut out. And it was the seventh time this season. There are 42 games that have been played in this season, and the Reds have already been shut out in 7 of them. I even saw a stat that says in 11 of them, they've scored 1 run or less. The offense has been ridiculously inconsistent. As you mentioned, I mean, they scored 13 runs on Saturday. They scored 0 runs the day before, 0 runs the day after. It's a very frustrating thing to watch, and I think that they have this strategy that's going on. There's an article in the Inquirer from Gordon Whitmire where he was talking to Chris Valaika and Elly De La Cruz, how the Reds are attacking the strike zone, how they are controlling the strike zone, and that is their strategy. Quite frankly, I think it is failing. I think they need to change it, and they need to just go back to see ball, hit ball, because right now they ain't hitting the ball.
Sometimes if it ain't broke, you don't fix it applies. And I understand that in the case of Elly De La Cruz, he had a massive amount of strikeouts last year. And I have told you from then through the offseason and right up until now, I do not care. If Elly plays like Elly played last season and strikes out like he struck out last season, I'll take that production. I'll take those results. And I do think that that production is going to get better, even if the strikeouts remain the same. He's going to hit for more power from the right side. He's going to get more extra base hits. Terry Francona is going to rein in some of the caught ceilings, I think, along the way. Elly gets better. So I don't know why we're changing his entire hitting approach. Now, I know that this is what Valaika does. There is a proven track record of him being able to cut down strikeouts and gain production. See his time in Cleveland. However, you're right. It's not working. And it's beyond Elly De La Cruz. I have officially reached status of caring about what's going on with Matt McLain right now. I've been saying, let's not worry. I've been saying he's going to figure it out. I've been saying, Matty's going to be Matty. Everybody just take a deep breath. Well, Matty right now is 165, 299, 298. That's not good, Bob. So there's another problem. And it's consistent. The thing that is consistent with this lineup up and down the whole thing is that it is inconsistent, that it is a problem. For Matt McLain, I think it is time to drop him down out of that 2 spot, get him down in the bottom of the lineup, take a little bit of the pressure off, see if he can figure it out, sandwiched in between, whatever outfielder got pulled out of the stands that day, and see if he can cook. The way this hitting has performed, Jeff, we're not to Memorial Day yet. I know that you and I have set that as our time to do a full-on evaluation of this team. I am officially in really concerned territory. Yeah. I'm worried.
Yeah, no, Memorial Day's on deck. It's not as if it's a long ways off. Like, we are getting to where it's getting a little bit too late to be too early. And I think at this point in the season, with the way that the Reds have hit, we can now definitively say there are some certain games that if they give up more than 4 runs, ain't happening. Like, they just aren't coming back from that. And so when they gave up 6 to Houston, it was like, all right. And there was a quote that John Sadak had, and I'm stuck on it, because in the first game of the series on Friday night against the Astros, the Reds had the tying run on deck. They had a guy on base, guy at the plate, and the tying run on deck. And John Sadak said these words exactly. He said, the tying run is on deck, but it certainly doesn't feel like it. And that's how this lineup has felt. Like, you just can't count on what they can do when they need to do it. And I think a lot of it has been just their approach to the plate. I do like the lineup conversation as well, and I want to have that conversation in today's show, but focusing more so on what Chris Valaika does, because we said it in the offseason when the Reds hired him, that when he came to Cleveland with Terry Francona, or when Terry Francona was the manager and he hired him, they dropped their strikeouts dramatically year over year. They were the best team in his first year at limiting strikeouts in the American League. The Reds have not taken that step. In fact, if anything, they've got worse. The only team that has more strikeouts than them this year are the Colorado Rockies. And if you're sitting here saying that you're better at something than the Colorado Rockies, well, then I'm saying water's wet and the sky's blue. Because if you're not better than the Colorado Rockies, you're not a Major League Baseball team, because quite frankly, there's a lot of people wondering if they're a Major League Baseball team right now. So I think that when you're looking at this statistic specifically, and I get it, the walks are pretty solid. I think they're 5th in walks. But we're basically setting this up to be, all right, the entire Cincinnati Reds lineup is Adam Dunn. They either strike out, they get a walk, or they hit a home run. They don't do anything else because their team slugging percentage is not great. Their team OPS plus is not great. A lot of things that need to improve, even just to league average levels here, that if they did that, this Reds team would be competing with the Cubs. And albeit I know I say this, and they went 2-5 last week. They had a horrible road trip in Atlanta and Houston, and they're still only 3 games out. But think of what they could be, Steve. Had they won a few more games, they could be in first, but they're not winning a few more games with this hitting strategy.
They're not. And maybe we just need to be okay with them going back to how they. God, I can't believe I'm going to say this. Maybe we need to be okay with the hitters going back to what they did under David Bell, which is just go out there and wing it. And
see ball, hit ball.
Yep. If that's the strategy name, is that what your binder says on it? See ball, hit ball.
See ball, hit ball. It's easy to spell. And it fits on a binder.
Alabama.
Too,
there you go.
The front of the binder.
No,
C, the letter C and ball. Right.
I got shouted down. I want to point out to you that you and a couple others, Mr. Mo Egger, on that show where we had this in-depth conversation about Elly and his strikeouts, you guys both shouted me down a little bit when I said that I didn't care about Elly's strikeout numbers. And you guys both made impassioned arguments about, but yeah, if you turn to however much percent you guys said about those strikeouts into base hits, and yeah, of course, I get that logic. But also, are those 10 extra base hits you thought you were going to get? Are those 10 base hits you thought you were going to get worth the dip in production we've seen from Elly trying to take control of the strike zone, from Elly trying to do something different instead of just play his game? His game, by the way, that propelled him from a nobody to the major leagues in almost record amount of time, Elly doing it Elly's way. And now we're trying to change it, and now you see the results of that. So maybe everybody, as far as some of these good young hitters are concerned, maybe, just maybe, the approach should be this. Hands off, you do you. If you got a question, come ask me. I'll help you. But if you're comfy, get out there and hit the ball. Maybe that should be the strategy.
It just feels like, and I've seen some at bats where he gets duped on a bad strike call. But I've also seen some at bats where the ball is right down the middle of the plate and he's got his bat on the shoulder because he's looking for something else. He wasn't looking for a fastball down the middle. He thought he was going to get off speed away or breaking ball low or something like that. I don't think they react. I think they're trying to be proactive. And as a hitter, I've heard countless amount of major league players, former and current major league players, say you cannot be proactive. You must be reactive. You must let the game come to you. And I feel as though they're trying to dictate the game. Because, yes, what we said, what Mo and myself, and I've heard some other folks say this too, like you cut down some strikeouts, you put the ball in play, you see him get on base more, you see some good stuff. He is striking out less. In fact, percentage-wise, his percentage this year is 29.3%. But his slugging percentage is 384. It's 90 points lower than last year.
Not worth the trade.
That is a massive drop-off. And that is not, you can't overstate how much of a drop-off that is, because he's hitting third right now. Like, I think probably too, and I want to have this discussion here coming up, and we also want to talk about some other things, but maybe you bat him lead off, you bat TJ Friedel second, because when Elly gets on base and then TJ's Captain Chaos, you could really have some fun there, and you let Matt McClain figure it out. Because we were in the camp of you can't split up Matt McClain and Elly De La Cruz, but right now that's pretty detrimental because Elly De La Cruz is coming to the plate a lot with the bases empty.
Yeah, Matt McClain's not helping him at all. Mrs. Nikita, by the way, says we're quoting Joe Nuxall, so we're in good company, I guess, if that's what we're doing. Listen, Jeff, I don't know if you caught this, but Terry Francona apologized for some things that it went down last week. Coming up next, we're going to talk about it. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, and in Jeff Carr's case, all of the Cincinnati area breweries, it's very easy to lose track of what you spent. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, your investments, and all of your spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. It is very, very easy to use. It's all in one convenience, has you eliminating the juggling of multiple apps. You can use Monarch Money to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. It helps you to easily collaborate with your partner. Managing your money has never been easier or smoother. You can track your shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Make sure you are subscribed. You've clicked the notification bell. You have yourself dialed into the Locked On Reds feed, because we have tons of great content coming your way. Jeff and I, Monday through Friday, in the Locked On Reds feed on Locked On Reds, aptly named. Also in the feed every single game. Tim Daniel on the postcast live after each game to talk about what we just saw. All right, Jeff, I know that there's a lot more to discuss as far as the hitting and the lineup and all the things. And we're going to circle back to that when we get into the questions in the comment section, because the comment section is, they have some opinions about what's going on right now. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But Terry Francona came out and made some specific apologies this week for some things that have gone down with this team. And I know I'll let you talk about what that apology was, but I also know you don't think he went far enough with it.
I don't. I think there was one guy he left out, a specific one guy, and I'll get to that in a minute. But what was said, and he told reporters this after Sunday's game, is he said, we didn't want to send anybody down that didn't deserve it. And he was talking about how, Luis May pitched a bunch, and Terry Francona called upon Lyon Richardson to pitch a bunch and things like that. He says, because we're trying to build something. I think loyalty and all that comes into play, and Brad Metter felt the same way, saying that we got caught short. And I had to ask some guys to pitch too much. And that bothered me. And he was specifically referring to the bullpen group, because this past week, the Reds played, because of extra innings, they played a total of 61 2/3 innings. 30 1/3 of that was pitched by the bullpen, because we had the short start with Hunter Green because of the injury, short start from Chase Petty, and a short start from Brady Singer as well on Saturday in the game where the Reds actually won. And so because of that, the bullpen was just overworked, and he apologized to them for overworking them. But I think he missed a guy, because quite frankly, I don't think the Reds did any favors to Chase Petty. I get it. He's a talented guy. He is a pitcher who is very close to being ready. And I think it's clear by the couple of times we've seen him pitch, he's not ready. He has not pitched the same amount of time in the minor leagues as guys like Andrew Abbott or Nick Lodolo or Graham Ashcraft did whenever they were first called up. And on top of that, he did not pitch in college because he was drafted as a high school player. So he is currently sitting at the developmental stage, probably where those guys were when they were in Double A. And the Reds have called him up too quickly. They did not give him enough time in AAA this year. And sure, we can make the argument whether or not they actually had somebody else to call up. But I think in the terms of individually and specifically referring to Chase Petty, this was doing him no favors, because also it lined up that he should have pitched against Chicago and they should have had Andrew Abbott pitch on 4 days rest in Houston. So I think that part of this is right, apologizing to the bullpen. But I think that Chase Petty was missed here.
It's very easy to forget that Chase Petty's 22 years old. We've been talking about him a long time now. And, this is the danger of drafting high school pitchers, because you never quite know. Are they going to make it? Are they going to live up to their potential? Now, I'm not saying that Chase Petty is a bust, but we're acting like he should be treated the same way the Reds treated Rhett Lauder. We're acting like he should be treated the same way the Reds are treating Chase Burns. But for all the reasons you just pointed out, they should not be. They've now brought him up twice, because he was kind of the next in line from a time frame. And this time frame, by the way, is totally arbitrary. This is just the time frame that the organization's kind of put on it. It's how we feel about it. So they've now brought him up twice, and he's had his brains kicked in twice. And
in different ways, too, because the Cardinals hit 1 billion home runs and he walked a bunch of Astros.
I would be okay if he came up and struggled a little bit and had to labor and work through things, and there were some learning and growing opportunities, and we saw it moving in a positive direction. He just got mugged twice. He just got the crap kicked out of him.
90
twice.
Pitches in 3 innings.
His confidence, I'm sure at this point, is shattered. It's tanked. It's time to openly acknowledge he is not ready for prime time. We should not see him again this year. Send him back to AAA with an attaboy. We know we put you in a bad situation. We're sorry. And we're going to circle back next spring training. You're going to be back up here soon, but we're going to bring you back up when you're ready. That's what needs to be said. That's what needs to be done. And then we need to start talking about how soon can Rhett Lauder get his butt ready to be in this rotation.
He did pitch his first outing in Dayton on Sunday. Statistically, whatever, doesn't matter. I know he gave up a few runs on a few hits and things like that, but he's going to be stretched out and ready to go probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks. But and hopefully we see Hunter Green back after missing one more start. So the Reds have to cover one more start. And this was something, and Charlie brought this up in an article that he wrote. And I don't know that I agree that the Reds should have went with a 4-man rotation, but I think that they could have at least pitched Andrew Abbott on Sunday and pitched Chase Petty on Tuesday, and at least given him the ability to pitch against the White Sox as opposed to the Astros. And so that part, to me, I feel like that was an easy, okay, maybe he still doesn't pitch all that great against the White Sox, but you can get away with a few more mistakes to those guys than you can to the Houston Astros. But I agree with you. I think the Reds have firmly put him in the same category as Jose Barrero, where they called him up before he was ready, and now they really worry about either damaging or destroying his development because of it. And I really hope that that does not happen and they are able to right the ship here, because Derek Johnson does have a good pitching development track record. But at the same time, he hasn't dealt with a whole lot of guys that came up and just, like you mentioned, just atomic bomb got dropped on him twice, and he's trying to come back from it.
It's very different. Let me give you an example of a guy that this plan worked with. It's a player that's more polished. It's a pitcher that was more developed. It's a pitcher that learned from how they were performing. Pretty much you could see clearly they had learned all they were going to learn at AAA, and they needed that next nudge. They needed that direct relationship with Derek Johnson, and every one of their starts seemingly was better than the last, and they developed into something. And that's Brandon Williamson. We saw them leave Brandon Williamson down until it was clear he had learned all he could learn. They bring him up, and then that direct relationship with Derek Johnson, that time at the major league level, that going out there and learning with a skill set that he had kind of refined already, he was able to get better and better and better. Chase Petty's not there. So there is a way you can bring a guy up to the major league level and help move him forward, nudge him along. Brandon Williamson's a good example of that. Chase Petty's nowhere near that. And I think, you're right. It was a disservice to his development. It was a disservice to what they wanted to do with him. And the Reds don't get now to say, oh, well, we've got to get him up here sooner than later because we started his clock. No, that's on you. That's not on Chase Petty. That's on the organization. So don't continue to trash his ability to develop because you made a mistake.
Well, and I think too, and this is a bigger conversation. I want to drop this kind of little drop in the bucket here, and we'll revisit this here in a little bit. Not really on today's show, but it's just a thought that I have. I'm starting to doubt their ability to manage this roster. I really am. I mean, just based on the organizational depth and who it is that they're calling up and what it is that they're doing. They're throwing darts at the outfield board. I felt like they had some other pitching options they probably could have looked at. I mean, I don't know. That's a little bit tough to say at this point, but I just wonder. I wonder a little bit. We're starting to run into a lot of these situations, and they just traded for Connor Joe and they started him the next day. So it's some doubts that are creeping into my mind about how Nick Krall is managing this roster, but that I'll leave it at that.
All right, Jeff, let's do this. Let's get through this next break. Let's come back and do our favorite part of the show, the questions and the comments, because what you just said, talking about the front office and this is going to drift into ownership too, has been a big topic in the chat I've seen going by over here. So coming up, we're going to get into those questions and comments and hear from you guys and talk about what you want to talk about. You're in the driver's seat. Coming up next.
One of my favorite things when it comes to watching any sporting event, not even just Reds games, but any sporting event, is snacking. And the best way to snack is with wonderful pistachios. Because let me tell you, chips, pretzels, all that other stuff, it ain't as healthy or as tasty as wonderful pistachios, because wonderful pistachios with every serving gives you 6 grams of protein. That means you're getting 11% of your daily value, at least according to the back of this wonderful pre-shelled bag of wonderful pistachios. This is the jalapeno lime kind. I'm going to tell you what, this is really tasty. It's got a nice bright taste to it, a little bit fresh taste to it. Going to be a nice crisp taste with your sports watching event. Even they've got some great flavors like chili roasted. They've got salt and vinegar. They've got barbecue smokehouse. That's wonderful pistachios. You got to get snacking. You got to get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Go to wonderfulpistachios.com and check them out in your local grocery store. I got this at the local Kroger. You can too. That's wonderful pistachios. If you can't watch us on YouTube, you can always listen to us on your favorite podcasting app, or seriously on all of them out there. And you can also listen to Tim Daniel's postcast shortly after he is live on YouTube as well. And Steve, before we get into that front office conversation, I do want to harken back to what we were talking about with the lineup, because I have a couple of thoughts on this. I saw a couple of folks, and I was trying to find any specific one, but I know a couple of people agreed with your idea to move Matt McLain down in the order. And then Adrian also had this comment about Elly saying that he looks uncomfortable and almost just looks like he's trying to be a slap hitter. I would push back a little bit and saying he's not just being a slap hitter. He is smart enough to place the ball. But if they are really married to this idea in controlling the strike zone and all this other, making him an on-base guy, great. Put him at the leadoff spot. Put him lead off, TJ Friedl batting second, Austin Hayes batting third, maybe Stevenson batting fourth. And you can kind of shuffle around 5 through 9. I mean, I'd be even fine if you put Matt McLain at 5 at this point. But I think that the fact that Matt McLain is getting the second most at bats on the team right now, I mean, Matt McLain's getting more at bats than Elly De La Cruz is whenever he's in the ball game. And I think that is something that cannot happen. Like, Elly needs to be getting the most at bats, period. And if we're going to make him an on-base guy, put the on-base guy in the on-base spot and make him the leadoff man.
What do you think about this from Jerry? Because he agrees, move Matt down. He wants Elly leading off, and he wants Espinal batting second in this lineup right now. What are your thoughts on that? Because I have Espinal grouped in the group of guys that are playing over their heads. And you ride the hot hand, you leave them out there as long as they're doing that thing. But would you be willing to take this chance? Santiago Espinal batting second?
I don't want this to sound as though it's an insult, though it's probably going to come off as an insult. But Espinal reminds me of Chris Heisey. Remember Chris Heisey when he pinch hit was like a world beater, hit like 600 That's not real. I don't know what the number is, but I know that as a pinch hitter, he was really good. And then whenever he played every day, whenever he replaced somebody who was hurt and he had to play for a long period of time every day, he got exposed. I almost feel like Espinal is one of those guys that you limit his opportunities, and in those limited opportunities, he shines. But when you give him all of the opportunities, there's a lot more gaps in his performance, because yes, his batting average is pretty solid, but everything is a single. And if it's not a single, it might be a double like once a week, because I think he's slugging like 360.
Well, isn't that okay in a 2-hole? I mean, that guy's on base.
You
just said you want on base guys in the on base positions. That's an on base guy.
And TJ Friedel's better at it.
All right. So why not put him third? And then third? And then Hayes bat fourth.
I mean, you could see that.
I mean, at this point, I'm willing. Listen, I know this is crazy talk.
Like a deck of
I know this is crazy talk, Jeff. Crazy talk. But I, at this point, with minor exceptions, and willing to put a lineup out there that's just, they sort the on base percentage column and put the highest guy leading off and follow the freaking list and see what happens. I mean, no matter what we do with it, it can't be worse than what's happening.
So that would be, if you did that, depending on who played that day, if you did that, that would actually be Austin Hayes leading off, Gavin Lux batting second, Santiago Espinal batting third, Stevenson batting fourth, TJ Friedel fifth. Probably Stevenson is your DH, so Jose Trevino would be your catcher. And then on some days, Austin Wynns actually has a better on-base percentage than most of those guys. It's just he's played less. And then you have Elly would bat, was that seventh? Matt McClain eighth. And then Spencer Steer ninth.
That don't sound so bad right now.
I don't want Elly batting seventh. I'm not going to sign off on something like that.
So I said with a few tweaks, what if you dropped Elly to ninth? Just bear with me for a second.
Because then you're making him bat the least.
He doesn't lead off the game. I don't care. They're not scoring runs. I don't care. Shake it up. Shake it up.
They do need it. They do
shake
need
it up hard.
Yeah. There's got to be something done, because right now the top guys, and say what you will, because I know I got pushback on this on Twitter, but the top two guys in this lineup, if you were to put them on paper before the season started, is Elly and Matt. And both those guys are not the reason that they're scoring runs. The reason they're scoring runs are Trevino, Austin Hayes, Gavin Lux getting on base, Austin wins when he plays. Like, there's things like this that it's confusing to me as to how the Reds have actually scored the runs that they've scored. Because when you sort like the league leaders team wise, as far as runs scored, the Reds are actually kind of up there. They're like sixth, I think. And that surprises the crap out of me, because they've got those games where they score 24 and 13. And then they got those games where they score 0 or 1. They've scored 0 or 1 runs in 11 games. That's more than whatever, 25% of the season.
Everybody wants a shakeup, Jeff. Scott Campbell has a proposed lineup. He's shaking it up. Adrian wants to shake it up, put Lux in the 2-hole. Carlton thinks that Espinal's the most talented hitter that the Reds have right now, followed by TJ. They're pushing back on you. The Foz wants to know if Friedel is better, why is Elly constantly batting with 2 outs? I have that same question. Good question. Larry says, at this point, why not just let Benson lead off? Okay, let's not get crazy. Okay.
No, and there's definitely sarcasm to be had, because this lineup leads you to become sarcastic, and if you don't, you just go insane. Because watching them on an everyday basis can really drive you nuts.